Narrator Stories from the Dark presents Beneath the Surface. The following audio documentary examines a case that has perplexed investigators, scientists, and witnesses alike. What you're about to hear includes interviews with survivors, experts, and those closest to the events. Some names have been changed to protect identities. Listener discretion is advised. In the picturesque New England town of Blackwood Cove, a community known for its historic lighthouse and bustling fishing industry, the residents have long embraced their identity as a close-knit maritime society. But beneath the idyllic facade of quaint shops and charming colonial homes lies a mystery so profound that it challenges our understanding of perception itself. On November 17th, 2022, at exactly 3:47 p.m., every resident of Blackwood Cove simultaneously lost their ability to speak. Not just a few people, all 2,183 residents. No physical cause could be identified. No illness, no contamination, no trauma. Their vocal cords remained intact and healthy. Yet, for 11 minutes and 22 seconds, not a single human voice could be heard throughout the entire town. This is the story of what locals now refer to as the Veil of Silence, an event that would spiral into a series of increasingly disturbing phenomena that would forever change Blackwood Cove and everyone who lived there. November in Blackwood Cove means preparation for the winter fishing season and the annual Founders Day celebration. Town records indicate nothing unusual about the morning of November 17th. Weather reports showed mild conditions with scattered fog, typical for the region this time of year. Weather reporter expect patchy fog this morning, clearing by noon. High of 52 degrees with light winds from the northeast. Perfect weather for the Founders Day preparations down at Harborside Park. Narrator Emma Caldwell, 34, was working her shift at the Lighthouse Cafe when the silence descended. Emma Caldwell, I was in the middle of taking an order from the Hendersons. They always get the clam chowder and split a turkey club. I remember saying, "Would you like fries with that?" And then, nothing. My mouth was moving, but no sound came out. At first, I thought I was having some kind of stroke. But then I saw Mrs. Henderson trying to speak too. Her mouth was moving, but nothing. Then Mr. Henderson. Then I noticed everyone in the cafe was doing the same thing. It was like someone had just muted the world. I could still hear the coffee machine, the bell on the door, even the seagulls outside. Just no human voices. Narrators' similar accounts flooded the local police station in the days following the incident. Police Chief Daniel Morgan described the scene at the station. Chief Morgan, "It was unlike anything I've experienced in my 27 years in law enforcement. I was briefing my officers on security for the Founders Day festival when suddenly I couldn't hear my own voice. The room erupted into panic, silent panic. Officers were gesturing, writing notes, typing on phones to communicate. The dispatch radio was still working, but when the dispatcher tried to speak, nothing came through." Narrator Dr. Samantha Ray, a neurologist from Coastal Maine Medical Center, was called in to examine several residents. DRREY, the medical findings were baffling. All patients demonstrated normal neurological function. Their vocal cords showed no signs of trauma or paralysis. Brain scans revealed normal activity in the speech centers. It was as if their ability to produce sound had been selectively disabled, despite all physical mechanisms remaining intact. Narrator, what made the event even more peculiar was its precise duration and synchronicity. At exactly 3:58 p.m. and 22 seconds, every resident regained their ability to speak simultaneously. Security footage from Blackwood Savings Bank captured the moment. "Bank customer, can hear me now? Can you hear me?" Bank teller, "Yes. Yes, I can hear you." Multiple voices, "What just happened? Oh my God. Is everyone okay?" Narrator, but this would only be the beginning of the strange phenomena that would engulf Blackwood Cove. In the days following what locals began calling the silence, residents reported a series of increasingly disturbing experiences. Police records show 37 separate calls reporting what witnesses described as echoes, hearing fragments of conversations that had occurred during the 11 minutes and 22 seconds when their voices had been silenced. Marcus Whitley, "I was cleaning my boat 3 days after it happened when I heard my own voice clear as day saying, 'The net's caught on something.'" That's exactly what I was trying to say. during the silence when we were out on the water. Scared me half to death because there was nobody else around. It was like the words had been stored somewhere and were just now finding their way out. Narrator Allison Bennett, the town librarian, reported a similar experience. Allison Bennett, I was reshelving books in the maritime history section when I heard whispers, multiple voices, all talking at once. I recognized them as the book club members who had been meeting in that exact spot during the silence. They were discussing Moby Dick, which was scheduled for that day's meeting. It was as if the words had been absorbed by the environment somehow, only to be released later. Narrator, these auditory phenomena were soon accompanied by visual ones. Residents began reporting what they described as reflections, seeing brief, transparent images of people performing actions that had occurred during those missing 11 minutes and 22 seconds. Principal Monroe, the school's security cameras, captured it perfectly. You can see the gymnasium where the students were practicing for the Founders' Day pageant. At 2:17 p.m., 6 days after the silence, a sort of shimmer appears, and then, like a projection on a semi-transparent screen, you can see the students going through the exact motions they were making during the silence. Their dance routine, the band playing, though no sound was recorded. It lasted exactly 11 minutes and 22 seconds before fading away. Narrator Dr. Elias Werner, a quantum physicist from MIT, was among the first scientists to arrive in Blackwood Cove to investigate. Dr. Werner, what we were observing defies conventional physics, yet demonstrates remarkable consistency. The echoes and reflections always represented events from the exact 11-minute, 22-second period of the silence. Never before, never after. Furthermore, they always occurred in the precise locations where the original events took place. This suggests a localized disturbance in what we might call the temporal field, almost as if time itself had developed a stutter. Narrator, but it was the discovery made by 12-year-old Tyler Hayes that would provide the first tangible clue to what might have caused these phenomena. Tyler Hayes. I was down at Crescent Beach with my metal detector, like 4 days after the whole no talking thing. My detector started going crazy near the Tiddleline. I dug down maybe a foot and found this weird rock, except it wasn't really a rock. It was this smooth, kind of egg-shaped thing. It had these lines on it that looked like circuit boards, but they were inside the stone somehow, and it was warm. Even though it had been buried in cold sand, it was warm to touch. Narrator Tyler's father, Michael Hayes, a geology professor at Northeastern University, immediately recognized the significance of his son's discovery. Professor Hayes, the object defied categorization. It wasn't geological in origin. The material wasn't any known stone or mineral. It wasn't manufactured, at least not by any conventional means we're familiar with. The most unusual property was its temperature, maintaining a constant 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit regardless of ambient conditions. That's human body temperature, which struck me as not coincidental. Narrator, the object, later dubbed the Blackwood artifact, was taken to the University of Maine for further analysis. But before their investigation could be completed, a series of power outages and equipment failures plagued the laboratory. According to Dr. Naomi Chun, who led the research team, these disruptions exhibited a troubling pattern. Dr. Chun, every time we attempted certain scanning procedures, particularly those involving electromagnetic field analysis, we experienced systematic failures. Not random outages, but precise disruptions that specifically prevented us from gathering data on the artifact's internal composition. It was as if the object was selectively interfering with our attempts to study it. Narrator, then, exactly 11 days after the silence, the Blackwood artifact disappeared from the secure laboratory where it was being held. Security footage showed only a brief burst of static at 3:47 p.m., the exact time the silence had begun almost 2 weeks earlier. When the image cleared 11 minutes and 22 seconds later, the artifact was gone. As November turned to December, the phenomena in Blackwood Cove began to intensify and converge in ways that suggested an unsettling pattern. Marian Collins, who operated the historic Blackwood Lighthouse as a tourist attraction, was the first to notice the new development. Marian Collins, the lighthouse, has stood for over 170 years. I know every inch of it. So when the beam started, Misbehaving, I noticed immediately. Instead of its normal rotation, it would stop at certain points, directing its light towards specific locations in town. Always at 3:47 p.m., always for exactly 11 minutes and 22 seconds. Narrator Police Chief Morgan began mapping the locations illuminated by the lighthouse beam. Chief Morgan, we marked every spot that the beam focused on. Over the course of a week, it created a perfect circle around the town, with one exception, a single line that cut through the circle, pointing directly to an underwater location about half a mile offshore. That's when we called in the Coast Guard. Narrator Coast Guard Lieutenant Amara Okafor led the initial dive team. LT Okafor's standard procedure would be to send down divers, but our sonar readings were unusual. The seafloor topography didn't match any of our charts. It showed what appeared to be a perfect geometric structure, a dome approximately 30 meters in diameter, where our records indicated there should be nothing but flat, sandy bottom. Narrator the Coast Guard deployed a remote submersible to investigate the anomaly. The footage it transmitted back left the observation team speechless. Operator ROV approaching target site. Visibility good. Depth 127 feet. Seafloor coming into view. Wait, what is? Technician, is that structure natural? Those angles look, operator, it's perfectly geometric. Those aren't rock formations. Those are constructed elements. Are we looking at a shipwreck? Technician, no known wreck in this location. And the material doesn't look like any vessel I've ever seen. Can we get closer to that opening? Operator moving in. There appears to be some kind of doorway. Port? It's definitely an engineered entrance of some kind. Technician, the material is radiating heat. Thermal sensors are picking up temperatures consistent with. Wait, that can't be right. It's reading at exactly 98.6 degrees. Operator, the same as the artifact. Wait, the ROV is experiencing electrical irregularities. Controls are becoming unresponsive. Technician, we're losing the feed. Do you copy? ROV Seeker, do you copy? Narrator, the Coast Guard lost contact with the remote submersible at exactly 3:47 p.m. When they sent a second ROV to investigate 24 hours later, there was no sign of either the first vehicle or the dome-like structure it had discovered. The seafloor had returned to its original, unremarkable state. But something had changed in Blackwood Cove. The echoes and reflections that had been occurring throughout town suddenly ceased. In their place came what residents described as visitations. Emma Caldwell, I was closing up the cafe when I saw myself, another version of myself, standing by the pastry case. It wasn't like the reflections people had been seeing. This was solid, three-dimensional. I looked exactly like me, but with this calm, almost detached expression. She said only one thing. They've been listening for a very long time. Then she dissolved into this fine mist that drifted out through the walls. Narrators' similar encounters were reported by 17 other residents over the next 72 hours. In each case, witnesses described meeting doppelgangers of themselves who delivered brief, cryptic messages before disappearing. Resident 1 Mind said, the silence was necessary to calibrate the connection. Resident 2 had told me, what lives beneath has awakened after 7 cycles. Resident 3, the message was, the lighthouse has always been their beacon. Chief Morgan, my double, looked me right in the eyes and said, November 17th was not the first time, and it will not be the last. Narrator Dr. Warner collaborated with historical researcher Dr. Alexandra Patel to investigate town records dating back to Blackwood Cove's founding in 1851. Dr. Patel, what we discovered was a pattern so precise it couldn't be coincidental. Every 37 years, almost to the day, Blackwood Cove experienced what historical accounts described as mass communicative disturbances. The terminology varied by era: the Great Quieting in 1885, the Day of Stillness in 1922, the voice theft in 1959. But the descriptions were remarkably consistent with what occurred in 2022. Dr. Werner, and each event was preceded by the discovery of an artifact, described variably as a stone with inner light, an egg of the deep, or a visitor's token. And in each case, The duration of the silence was recorded as precisely 11 minutes and 22 seconds. Narrator, but it was the Blackwood lighthouse that provided the final piece of the puzzle. On December 21st, exactly 37 days after the silence, Marian Collins made a discovery in the lighthouse keeper's quarters that would reshape our understanding of Blackwood Cove's history. Marian Collins, I was renovating the old keeper's study, a room that had been locked and unused for decades. Behind a section of wood paneling, I found a hidden compartment containing a leather-bound journal. It belonged to Theodore Blackwood himself, the founder of our town and first keeper of the lighthouse. The final entry was dated July 7th, 1889, the day before his mysterious disappearance. Narrator: the journal, authenticated by historical experts, contained detailed accounts of Theodore Blackwood's communications with what he described as the visitors. Theodore Blackwood, they came again last night, rising from the depths as they have every 37 days since I completed the beacon, according to their specifications. They assure me that what I have built is not merely a lighthouse, but a bridge, a means by which our worlds might one day converge without catastrophe. They speak without sound, conveying thoughts directly into my mind. They have shown me visions of their world beneath the waves, not an ocean like ours, but a vast space existing in parallel to our reality. They explain that once every 37 years, the membrane between our worlds thins, allowing for momentary connection. The silence they invoke is necessary, a dampening of human frequency to allow clearer transmission. What we perceive as lost voices are actually being collected, studied, preserved as vital data in their ongoing research. Tomorrow I shall join them beneath the waves. They have promised to show me the true nature of reality, the layers upon layers that exist beyond our limited perception. I go willingly, though I know I shall never return to Blackwood Cove as the man who founded it. Narrator: Theodore Blackwood was never seen again after July 8th, 1889. Historical records indicate that his disappearance coincided with reports of unusual lights beneath the water and a period of silence that descended upon the town for, according to church records, precisely 11 minutes and 22 seconds. The discovery of Blackwood's journal prompted a new investigation into the lighthouse itself. Dr. Werner led a team equipped with advanced scanning technology. Dr. Werner, the lighthouse's architecture contained irregularities that couldn't be explained by 19th century engineering. The spiral pattern of the stone staircase created a precise mathematical sequence, a Fibonacci spiral, that would have been beyond the mathematical understanding of most builders of that era. More significantly, we discovered that the lens assembly wasn't merely designed to project light outward to warn ships. It was constructed to receive and focus certain frequencies inward. Narrator: further analysis revealed that the lighthouse's foundation extended much deeper than shown in any official blueprint, reaching nearly 400 feet below sea level through solid bedrock. The arch and the composition of the foundation stones contain trace elements not found anywhere else in the geological record of North America. Our analysis suggests they may not be terrestrial in origin at all. Most significantly, the entire structure appears designed to serve as a massive receiver or transmitter of signals that operate outside the electromagnetic spectrum as we currently understand it. Narrator: on January 23rd, 2023, at exactly 3:47 p.m., 67 days after the silence, every electronic device in Blackwood Cove simultaneously displayed the same image, a geometric pattern resembling the dome structure seen briefly on the seafloor. The image remained for exactly 11 minutes and 22 seconds before being replaced by a sequence of numbers. November 17th, 2059. Chief Morgan, we consulted with every expert available, cryptographers, mathematicians, even theologians. The consensus was unavoidable. It was a date, November 17th, 2059. Exactly 37 years from the last event. Narrator: when authorities attempted to evacuate certain residents from Blackwood Cove for their protection, they encountered an unexpected phenomenon. Lt. Okafor, we had arranged transport for the most vulnerable residents, elderly, children, those with medical conditions. But when the buses attempted to depart, they encountered what witnesses described as a wall of resistance. Not a physical barrier you could see, but vehicles simply could not progress beyond the town limits. It was as if they were trying to drive through increasingly dense gelatin until forward motion became impossible. Narrator, this invisible boundary corresponded exactly to the circle of light the lighthouse beam had traced weeks earlier. No resident of Blackwood Cove has been able to leave the town since. Emma Caldwell were not prisoners, exactly. Visitors can come and go freely. Supplies get delivered. Internet and phone service work perfectly. Better than before, actually. But anyone who was in Blackwood Cove during the silence cannot physically leave. It's like we've been marked somehow, or maybe selected is a better word. Narrator, which brings us to the present day. The residents of Blackwood Cove continue their lives with a new normal, one that includes regular transmission periods where the lighthouse activates at 3:47 p.m. every 37th day, during which time all human voices in the town fall silent for exactly 11 minutes and 22 seconds. Dr. Werner were still learning, still gathering data. But certain conclusions seem inescapable. Something has been observing humanity, specifically this community, for at least 170 years. Theodore Blackwood wasn't just the founder of this town. He was apparently the architect of a long-term communication protocol with an intelligence that exists adjacent to our reality. Dr. Patel, the historical pattern, is consistent with a methodical, patient approach. These entities, whatever they are, operate on a timescale that makes their intentions difficult to discern. Are they studying us? Preparing us for something? The 37-year cycle suggests a biological or astronomical significance we haven't yet decoded. Narrator, what remains unclear is why this particular coastal town became the focal point for this interaction, and what will happen when November 17th, 2059 arrives. The residents of Blackwood Cove live with this uncertainty, carrying on their daily lives while aware that they are part of something much larger and more profound than they can fully comprehend. Chief Morgan, people ask if we're afraid. The honest answer is, not anymore. The fear was in not understanding. Now that we know we're part of something that's been happening for generations, there's an odd comfort in it. Whatever this is, first contact, scientific study, something else entirely, it's been going on peacefully for nearly 2 centuries. We're just the first generation to be fully aware of it. Emma Caldwell, I still serve coffee every day. The Hendersons still come in for their chowder and turkey club. But now, when the lighthouse activates and the silence falls, we all just pause. We've learned to appreciate those 11 minutes and 22 seconds. It's like the whole town takes a collective breath. And sometimes in that silence, it feels like we're finally hearing what's been trying to communicate with us all along. Narrator, the story of Blackwood Cove continues to evolve. Scientists, government officials, and curious visitors now flock to this small New England town, drawn by the mystery of the silence and what it might reveal about our place in a universe that may be far stranger and more connected than we have previously understood. As we conclude our investigation, many questions remain unanswered. What lies beneath the waters off Blackwood Cove? What will happen in 2059? Was Theodore Blackwood a visionary, a collaborator, or perhaps something else entirely? And most importantly, are we merely observers in this unfolding story? Or are we all unwitting participants in a much larger conversation that has been taking place beneath the surface of our perceived reality? You've been listening to The Veil of Silence, an episode of Beneath the Surface from Stories from the Dark. This program is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places, and incidents are either products of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual events or locales or persons, living or dead, is entirely coincidental. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our channel and share with others who appreciate exploring the mysteries that lie just beneath the surface of our everyday world. Until next time, remember, sometimes silence speaks volumes.